Hi there, thank you for return to my channel. How good your day? Whatever your mood, please take a few minutes to join me. I hope today's story will help you relax, unwind, and find some peace after a long day. Now, let's begin.
My jealous younger brother looked straight at me in the middle of the courtroom and said, "Get ready to be humiliated in front of everyone." My parents grinned with pure satisfaction and added, "We want to see the look on your face when you fail." I sat there in complete silence amid the packed Dallas bankruptcy court local reporters, scribbling furiously, flashes popping from cameras, the tension so thick it was hard to breathe until the judge paused, looked up, and asked one single question that made my brother go dead silent. My parents' smiles vanish in an instant, and their lawyers start trembling as a secret about me finally came to light. Morgan Mitchell, 35 years old, was sitting at the defendant's table in this very public hearing downtown Dallas. My hands steady on the cool wood surface despite the adrenaline surging through me. This wasn't just any bankruptcy case. It was a spectacle my family had orchestrated to destroy my reputation in front of the entire city. Thank you so much for listening to this story of betrayal and justice. I would love to know where you're tuning in from today. Are you in your car, during the commute at the office on a break, or relaxing at home? Drop it in the comments below so we can connect and share these stories together. And if you're hooked already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and hit that notification bell. It really helps these real-life dramas reach more people just like you. Let's keep going. I locked eyes with Trevor the moment those words left his mouth, feeling the whispers ripple through the crowded courtroom like a wave. Across the aisle, my family sat at the plaintiff's table, putting on their best performance. My father, Fred Ellis, held himself with that rigid posture he always used in business meetings, his face set in an expression of quiet disappointment that could have won awards. Next to him, my mother, Alice, dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief in slow, deliberate motions, as if every tear was carefully timed for maximum effect. And Trevor, my younger brother, leaned forward just enough to project confidence, that same smug tilt to his mouth, telling everyone in the room he had already won. The gallery was full. Local reporters from the Dallas Morning News and a couple of business journals filled the back rows, their pens moving fast. A few familiar faces from the Highland Park social circle sat scattered among strangers, all drawn to the spectacle of a prominent real estate family airing its dirty laundry in federal bankruptcy court. The air hummed with anticipation, the kind that comes when people smell scandal involving money and blood ties. My lawyer, Valerie Hayes, sat beside me calmly, arranging a few folders on our table. She didn't look nervous. Her dark suit was sharp, her expression focused, like she had seen this kind of show before and knew exactly how to handle it. The bailiff called the room to attention as Judge Harlan Brooks entered and took his seat. He was in his late 60s with a no-nonsense face that suggested he had little patience for drama. The docket was heavy, and a contested family bankruptcy case involving one of Dallas's well-known real estate names was probably not how he wanted to spend his morning. Once we were seated, Gregory Caldwell, their lawyer, the kind who charged top dollar to make problems disappear for wealthy clients, stood up. He buttoned his jacket with a practiced motion and addressed the judge in a deep, carrying voice. "Your Honor," he began, "this is a heartbreaking family matter. My client, Trevor Ellis, extended a personal loan of $3 million to his sister, the debtor Morgan Mitchell, in an effort to rescue her company, Pinnacle Properties Group, from imminent collapse. This money was intended to cover critical development costs and prevent the loss of ongoing projects." He paused for effect, letting the number sink in. $3 million. To most people in the room, it sounded like a fortune. To my family, it was just another tool. Caldwell continued, pacing slowly. The agreement was straightforward. The funds were to stabilize the business, which specializes in luxury condo and commercial developments. But evidence will show that the debtor diverted these resources into high-risk ventures, overextending on speculative land acquisitions and luxury amenities that the market couldn't support. Pinnacle Properties Group is now deeply insolvent, with unpaid contractors, stalled projects, and no realistic path to recovery. A low murmur spread through the gallery. Reporters scribbled faster. I felt the weight of every stare on the back of my neck. On the surface, Pinnacle had hit rough patches, delayed permits, rising material costs, a couple of deals that fell through in a softening market. But we had successes too: two completed high-end condo towers in uptown Dallas that were fully sold out, generating solid revenue, and several mixed-use projects in the pipeline with committed investors. It wasn't the sinking ship they painted. My mother let out a soft, perfectly timed sigh. My father placed a hand on her arm, the picture of supportive grief. Trevor kept his eyes on me, that confident look never wavering. Caldwell wrapped up his opening. We are asking the court to recognize the validity of this debt, pierce the corporate veil if necessary, and grant relief to the creditor who acted out of familial loyalty, only to be left holding substantial losses. The room fell quiet, thick with judgment. Headlines were already forming in those reporters' minds. Ellis family heiress squanders brother's investment in failing real estate empire. Judge Brooks adjusted his glasses and turned toward our table. Ms. Hayes, does the defense wish to make an opening statement? Valerie stood without flourish, her voice clear and steady, cutting through the heavy air. Briefly, Your Honor, the narrative presented is emotionally compelling and carries a very large dollar figure, but it lacks one essential element: accuracy. She didn't pace or gesture dramatically. She just stood there, calm and direct. We will show that no such loan ever occurred, that Pinnacle Properties Group is far from the failing entity described, with active revenue-generating developments and secured partnerships, and that this petition is not about recovering a debt. It's about something far less noble. She sat down. The whispers started again, louder this time. A few reporters exchanged glances. My father's posture stiffened just a fraction. Trevor's confident tilt faltered for the first time, replaced by a quick glance at Caldwell. The judge scanned the file in front of him, his expression neutral but attentive. The real fight hadn't even started yet, but the room already felt different, like the script my family had written was about to hit its first unexpected plot twist. To understand why Trevor was jealous enough to drag me into this public courtroom battle. It all went back to those family dinners in our Highland Park home, the kind where the air smelled of polished silver and roasted meat, but the conversation always carried a sharper edge. We grew up in one of those big houses on quiet streets, lined with old oaks, where success was measured by how well you maintained the family name in Dallas real estate circles. My father ran the Ellis Group's commercial property division, handling large office leases and retail centers for generations-old money. It was steady, predictable work, shaking hands at the club, closing deals over golf, keeping the portfolio growing without too much risk. Trevor fit perfectly into that world from an early age. He had the charm, the easy smile, the ability to remember names and make people feel important. Everyone assumed he would step in one day and take over the natural heir, carrying on the legacy. I was different. While Trevor was out networking with Dad's partners, I was studying market trends, urban development reports, and luxury design magazines. I saw opportunity in high-end residential projects, condos with rooftop amenities, mixed-use buildings that blended living and retail in ways the old guard hadn't embraced yet. To me, it wasn't gambling. It was the future of Dallas as the city kept growing. One Sunday evening stands out clearly. We were at the long dining table, crystal glasses catching the light from the chandelier. I had prepared a simple presentation on my laptop, projections for a luxury condo tower in Uptown, targeting young professionals moving into the area. I talked about pre-sales interest construction timelines, potential returns that outpaced traditional commercial leases. When I finished, the silence stretched just long enough to feel uncomfortable. My father set down his fork and looked at me with that familiar mix of amusement and dismissal. "Morgan, this sounds like a dangerous game, not a business for a young woman in our family. Stick to something stable. We manage properties. We don't chase trendy developments that could flop with the next market dip." My mother nodded along, adjusting her necklace. "Exactly. It's risky enough without adding all those fancy amenities. What if buyers don't show up?" Trevor leaned back in his chair, smirking. "Yeah, sis. Sounds more like playing developer than actually building something solid. Leave the real deals to people who know the market." Their words landed like they always did, casual offhand, but cutting deep. It wasn't the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. They saw my ideas as frivolous, something a daughter might dabble in before settling into a more appropriate role, maybe helping with charity events or supporting Trevor's eventual rise. But in that moment, as the criticism hung in the air, I felt a gentle squeeze on my hand under the table. My grandmother, Eleanor, my father's mother, who lived in a smaller house on the same street, had been listening quietly as usual. She didn't say much at these dinners, but her eyes missed nothing. She leaned close and whispered just loud enough for me to hear, "Don't let them dim your fire, dear. You've got the vision they lack." Those small encouragements from Grandma Eleanor were rare, but powerful. She had seen the business change over decades and believed in adapting even if her son didn't. Her quiet support kept me going when the rest of the table made me feel like an outsider in my own home. By the end of that year, the pattern was clear. Every time I brought up a new concept, sustainable features for modern buyers, partnerships with architects pushing boundaries, the response was the same polite smiles, hiding doubt suggestions I consider a position in the family firm's marketing or administration instead. I stopped sharing. The rejection wasn't loud arguments. It was constant erosion, the kind that wears you down over time. Trevor thrived in their approval, soaking it up like it was his birthright. I realized if I wanted to build something real, I had to do it without their backing or their interference. So I left. Packed my things one weekend when everyone was at a charity gala, rented a tiny office space downtown, and started Pinnacle Properties Group with savings and a small business loan. No family money, no safety net. Just me, a desk, and the belief that Dallas was ready for the kind of luxury developments I envisioned. Those early days were all about proving I could stand on my own. That late evening, as I was reviewing the final redevelopment blueprints at my desk, my phone buzzed with an email notification from the court server. The subject line made my blood run cold. "Involuntary bankruptcy petition filed. Pinnacle Properties Group debtor Morgan Mitchell." I opened the attachment and read through it in disbelief. Trevor had initiated the proceeding, alleging a $3 million personal loan he provided to rescue the company from collapse. The document detailed how the funds were meant for essential project costs, but I had allegedly mismanaged them into high-risk ventures, leaving Pinnacle insolvent with mounting debts and stalled developments. The claims twisted facts I knew intimately. They exaggerated unpaid invoices by including projected expenses as immediate liabilities. They ignored closed sales from completed towers that had brought in millions over the last quarters. It was a carefully crafted picture of failure designed to force court intervention before I could respond. I immediately forwarded the filing to Valerie Hayes. She responded within minutes. "We need to meet tomorrow morning. Bring every financial summary you have." The next day, I arrived at her firm early, the petition printed and marked up in my folder. Valerie's conference room overlooked downtown Dallas, but the view did nothing to calm the knot in my stomach. We spread documents across the table: bank statements, investor reports, audited financials, project ledgers. She went through the petition methodically, her pen marking inconsistencies. "The alleged loan date falls during your strongest cash position from the uptown closings. No inflow matches the amount. and the attached agreement its missing standard clauses for collateral or interest accrual. For $3 million between siblings that's suspiciously loose. We dug deeper. The petition cited specific vendor disputes and permit delays that weren't public knowledge, numbers pulled directly from internal forecasts I'd shared only with senior staff. This level of detail doesn't come from outside research, Valerie noted. Someone with access is helping them. Blake Harlan came to mind again. He'd been involved in coordinating those exact forecasts for board presentations. His recent questions about contingency funds now felt less innocent. We mapped out the defense strategy step by step. First, compile comprehensive proof of solvency current balance sheets, showing healthy reserves revenue streams from active pre-sales committed funding letters from partners. Second, demand discovery on their side subpoena, Trevor's personal and business accounts for any trace of the transfer. Valerie outlined timelines. We file a motion to dismiss early, highlighting the absence of verifiable debt. Attach forensic summaries showing no matching transactions. If they can't produce evidence of the loan, the case crumbles. We discussed risks. A prolonged proceeding could scare investors, delay permits, damage relationships with contractors, but rushing to settle would validate their narrative. We fight clean and hard, Valerie said. Expose the gaps, force them to prove what they claim. By afternoon, we had a clear plan. Gather affidavits from key partners confirming no family involvement in funding, prepare expert reports breaking down cash flow, review every communication for anything that could be twisted. Driving back the suspicion about inside help grew stronger. The petition's precision felt too targeted. How else could Trevor know exact figures from drafts not yet finalized? The questions lingered as I pulled into the office garage. Answers would come, but first we had to build an unbreakable shield. The real work was just beginning. The following days passed under constant time pressure and closed-door meetings at Pinnacle. I kept my routine as normal as possible, on the surface arriving early, leading the daily stand-ups, reviewing site photos from contractors. But inside, I was watching everyone with new intensity. The office had always felt like a second home, a place where the team shared coffee and celebrated milestones. Now it carried a quiet strain. People glanced up when I walked past. Conversations paused just a fraction too long. The lawsuit rumors had spread and no one knew quite what to say. Blake sat at his usual spot near the window, managing timelines on his dual monitors. He had been reliable from day one, always the first to volunteer for extra reports. Quick with solutions when delays popped up. That's why the small shifts caught my attention. He started asking more questions about reserve funds for the redevelopment phase, things he normally wouldn't need for his role. He printed more documents than usual, taking them to the copier alone. I began tracking quietly. Saved copies of emails he sent requesting detailed cash flow projections, jotted timestamps when he accessed shared drives late at night. Valerie's paralegal helped pull anonymous logs showing unusual activity on files related to the city partnership bid. The weight pressed harder each day. Vendors called checking payment status, worried about industry chatter. Partners emailed for updates on stability. I answered with calm reassurances while my mind raced through worst-case scenarios. Sleep became fragments, thoughts circling around who and why. To confirm without tipping my hand, I introduced a plausible but false detail during a leadership call. I mentioned preparing contingency documents for the redevelopment assets, including off-site storage at a new facility we'd secured in Florida. It sounded like standard risk management, nothing alarming, just prudent planning in light of legal noise. The group accepted it without pushback. Notes were taken, the topic moved on to permitting updates. 48 hours later, Valerie called. They just filed an emergency motion for asset protection. Read paragraph 7. I opened the attachment. There it was, a request to prevent removal or transfer of critical project materials to the Florida facility pending court review. The words hit like ice water. That exact phrase had come from my mouth in the call. No public record mentioned Florida. Only the people on that call knew. Valerie and I reviewed it immediately. The timing seals it, she said. They acted too fast for anything but a direct feed. We built the case carefully, preserved the call recording with timestamps, collected distribution lists showing who received the follow-up summary, pulled metadata on file views matching the motion's language, gathered statements from other attendees confirming they hadn't discussed it externally. The office tension grew thicker. Team members sensed the extra scrutiny in my questions, the locked cabinet I started using. I hated the distrust it bred, but protecting years of work mattered more. Blake's behavior shifted further. He arrived earlier, left later, avoided eye contact during check-ins. Once I caught him closing a browser tab quickly when I approached. By midweek, the evidence stack was undeniable. Direct correlation between internal access and their filings. The Florida reference was the clincher. No coincidence could explain it. We organized everything into exhibits logs, emails, motion comparisons, affidavits. Valerie prepared supplemental filings to introduce the pattern without showing all cards yet. The hearing loomed closer, the pressure peaking, but the proof felt solid in my hands for the first time. The pieces had fallen into place. The morning of the hearing, the Dallas sun beat down harshly as I walked into the crowded federal courthouse. The gallery was packed tighter than I expected. Local business reporters filled several rows, notebooks ready. Colleagues from the real estate community sat scattered among curious onlookers. Camera flashes had stopped at security, but phones were out capturing the scene for social media. Valerie walked beside me, her briefcase organized with our exhibits. We took our places at the defense table. Across the aisle, my family sat composed. My father, Fred, maintained his usual upright posture, face impassive. My mother, Alice, held a tissue, eyes already glistening. Trevor leaned back slightly, arms crossed, that familiar air of certainty about him. Gregory Caldwell rose as soon as the judge allowed openings to conclude. He recapped the petition, smoothly emphasizing the alleged $3 million loan and Pinnacle's supposed financial distress. He painted a picture of mismanagement, stalled projects, and creditors at risk, urging immediate relief to protect the claimed debt. The room listened intently. A few heads nodded in the gallery. My father's expression remained stoic, but I caught the slight tightening of his jaw. Valerie stayed seated for now, waiting for our turn. The judge listened without interruption, flipping through the pre-filed documents occasionally. When Gregory finished and sat down, Judge Harlan Brooks leaned forward, removing his reading glasses slowly. He scanned a page in the binder before him, brow furrowing as if confirming something he'd noticed earlier. "Counsel," he said, voice calm but carrying authority through the microphone. "Before we proceed to the defense, I have a question based on the submissions already in the record." The room quieted completely. Gregory half rose, expectant. Judge Brooks addressed me directly. "Ms. Mitchell is Pinnacle Properties Group, currently the lead developer in a public-private partnership with the state of Texas for the redevelopment of the old Riverfront District downtown, an agreement valued in excess of $100 million over 5 years. The question landed like a thunderclap. Whispers erupted immediately. Reporters typed furiously. My father's posture stiffened visibly. Trevor's arms uncrossed, his face losing color. I stood, keeping my voice steady. "Yes, Your Honor. We were awarded the contract 6 months ago after a competitive bid process. Phase 1 funding is already in place with construction set to begin next quarter." The judge nodded, turning to Gregory. "Mr. Caldwell, your petition describes the debtor's company as insolvent and without viable projects. Yet the pre-filed exhibits include public notices of this major partnership. How do you reconcile seeking to seize control of a company actively engaged in a state-backed development of this scale?" Gregory stood, composure cracking for the first time. "Your Honor, our information indicates the project is at risk due to the debtor's financial instability." The judge cut him off gently but firmly. Instability evidenced by a loan your client cannot document with any transfer record. Valerie rose then. Your Honor, if I may address the court's concern. The judge motioned her forward. She presented our prepared exhibits calmly. First, the pattern of unauthorized access logs showing internal files, viewed irregularly correlating exactly with details in their filings. Then, the Florida reference. Side-by-side slides our internal contingency note versus their emergency motion language. This information was shared only in a limited management call. Its appearance in the plaintiff's filing proves unauthorized disclosure from inside Pinnacle. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Trevor's face went pale. My mother dabbed faster at her eyes, but the tears looked different now. The judge's expression hardened as Valerie continued. Separate from the leak, our financial summaries showed strong reserves, completed sales revenue, and secured funding streams. The alleged loan had no matching transaction in any account. But the biggest revelation came when Valerie introduced forensic analysis of the family's own holdings. Your Honor, the timing of this petition aligns with significant shortfalls in the Ellis Group's commercial portfolio losses from an over-leveraged retail center project that went south last year. My father's head snapped up. The room went dead silent. Valerie laid out the numbers neutrally. Public records and subpoenaed summaries showing the hole my father had tried to plug quietly. The bankruptcy filing wasn't just about control. It was an attempt to shift blame, make Pinnacle the scapegoat for funds that vanished elsewhere. In the back row, Grandma Eleanor sat with her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her eyes filled as she watched pride and sorrow mixing on her face. She had seen the family's flaws up close for decades, but seeing me stand against them brought a quiet strength to her expression. The judge listened without interruption, face growing more serious with each slide. When Valerie finished, he addressed Gregory directly. Counsel, this court does not appreciate being used as a tool in personal or financial maneuvering, especially when it risks disrupting a major public project. Gregory tried to respond, but his voice lacked conviction. Trevor stared at the table, hands clenched. My father looked suddenly older, the confident mask slipping. The atmosphere had shifted completely. What started as their show was unraveling thread by thread. The judge set down the exhibits carefully. The real reckoning was about to begin. When the judge brought down the gavel for the final ruling, the entire courtroom fell dead silent. Judge Harlan Brooks spoke with measured authority. This court finds the involuntary bankruptcy petition was filed in bad faith, supported by unsubstantiated claims and evidence of improper conduct. The petition is dismissed with prejudice, meaning no refiling of these allegations will ever be permitted. A collective exhale rippled through the gallery. Reporters stopped typing for a moment, absorbing the weight. The judge continued. Furthermore, given the serious issues raised regarding document authenticity, unauthorized access to proprietary information, and potential interference with a major public development contract, the clerk is directed to forward the full record, including all exhibits and transcripts, to the Federal Bureau of Investigation for review of possible fraud and corporate espionage violations. My father's face drained of color. Trevor gripped the table edge, knuckles white. My mother buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking, but this time there was no performance left. The consequences unfolded quickly in the months that followed. Federal investigators moved fast. Trevor and my father faced charges that carried potential prison time, substantial fines running into millions, and permanent revocation of their real estate licenses in Texas. The Ellis Group's reputation in Dallas circles collapsed. Partners pulled out, deals dried up, invitations stopped coming. What had been a prominent name in local business became synonymous with scandal. I watched it from a distance, no longer part of that world. Outside the courthouse that day, the harsh sun felt different, cleansing somehow. Grandma Eleanor waited for me near the steps, her eyes red but shining with pride. I walked straight to her and wrapped her in the longest hug we'd ever shared. "Thank you," I whispered. You were the only one who ever believed in me when it mattered most. She held me tighter. I've always known you were special, sweetheart. You proved them all wrong today. We stood there for a long time, the noise of departing reporters fading around us. Later that week, I made the decision final. No more contact with my parents or Trevor. No explanations, no second chances. The betrayal had been too complete, too calculated. I changed numbers, updated security protocols at the office, and focused forward. From the proceeds of the Texas redevelopment contract now fully protected and moving ahead, I established the Ellis Family Justice Fund. It wasn't about keeping the name for glory. It was about turning it into something meaningful. The fund provides scholarships for young people from difficult family situations, free legal consultation for those facing unfair treatment at home, and temporary housing support for teens who need a safe place to rebuild. I wanted to help kids who grew up feeling like outsiders in their own families, the ones dismissed or favored against, the ones who needed someone to say, "Your ideas matter. You can build your own path." Greed and jealousy can tear even the wealthiest families apart from the inside. I saw it happen firsthand, how the pursuit of control and cover-up destroyed what little connection remained. But pain doesn't have to be the end. I chose to take mine and turn it into hope for others, giving them tools I wished I'd had earlier, resources, guidance, a chance to stand strong without looking back. That's the legacy I build now. One project, one supported life at a time.